Am I messed up? Or are you messed up? Are we all messed up? And is it interesting, our messed upness? Since the 1970s, I've seen therapists over the years for depression, marijuana use, marital issues, and your average privileged white American male angst.
I'd like to talk about cannabis addiction, is that right?
Well, recently I started up therapy again. I interviewed therapists that would allow me to record their sessions, and being during the pandemic, people were on Zoom anyway, and I found a therapist. The first one didn't want it, but the second one said, okay. Hello there, join with computer audio. Hi there.
How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm well.
So
Let's go
you're...
in mode. Get all this set up here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. My hair is a little messy. I have my pandemic do going.
Just to review one more time, we agreed that $150 would be the fee.
Right.
Okay. And sessions are 50 minutes.
Okay. I want to have a therapist that I can record my sessions in case I want to use it for creative purposes. And also I can write off the cost of my therapy if it's for a project I'm doing. I asked my tax consultant about this. And so that's a kind of a nice bonus of paying for therapy, but being able to write it off.
So as we're kind of harvesting some information about you and just, a little archaeological discovery, and your date of birth.
May 31st, 1951.
Place of birth.
LA.
Did you grow up in LA?
Yeah.
That's got to be really fascinating. That must have had quite an impact on...
Well, I feel like what had more impact on me is when I went to school in Berkeley, but we can get to that.
And marital status, you're single, married?
Married. I was married for 35 years, got divorced about 9 years ago, and I've been married now to my current wife for about 3 years.
Any children?
Yeah, 2 boys. How old are they? I think they're 35 and 38.
And what would you describe your occupation?
Filmmaker, videographer. One of the issues I wanted to work on in therapy is smoking too much pot and the stigma about being a pot smoker. I wanted to smoke marijuana ever since high school, but because I hung out with the student government crowd, ironically, I never got high in high school. But in my senior year, it was 1969, I made this film for a class project about things influencing my mind. And you can see I was fantasizing about what it would be like to smoke pot. It wasn't until next year, when I went to UC Berkeley, that I finally smoked weed for the first time. And I've smoked about every day since then. I guess ideally I'd like to be able to get stoned and out of my mind or whatever state I get in on command, but have more control how often that happens. Sometimes I smoke twice a day, which would be 4 puffs. Lately, when I haven't gotten stoned as easily, I've been doing 3 or 4 puffs.
Okay.
Normally, I wait till around 4 or 5 to smoke. And I have a lockbox called a kitchen safe, and I can put my weed in there and turn the dial, and it can not open for however many hours I set it, so I don't tempt myself.
That's a fascinating box for one, but interesting. So it's kind of your desire is still there. So it's a interesting way to hold yourself back, I suppose, what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So accessibility, just if it's available, it's just that much easier to reach for.
Exactly. After a couple of sessions, I sent my therapist an email asking if during the next Zoom therapy session I could share a short video I made about my pot habit. I was surprised at his email response. He raised the issue of whether I'm an exhibitionist. I'm a little shakier today than maybe last time, but...
Well, I think we should address the email.
Okay.
I'm not 100% comfortable with just the recording part in general. It's just such a different. It's not that I'm uncomfortably recorded, but I'm not 100% convinced we're seeing each other for your ultimate well-being.
It seems so easy to have it recorded that I can use for a project. And if you didn't want that, then I guess I would want a different therapist that would allow me to record it.
Yeah, the recording is the issue.
Yeah, okay.
I want you to know that I'm less concerned with that we get the right lighting, that the recording is sufficient. I don't want us to overly accommodate that. It's about making sure that you and I can meet and discuss so you can get the best for your mental health. I use exhibitionist language. I knew that was being a little bit jarring. And I didn't mean to be so jarring. Though I reflect as I go, sometimes with language or writing, you don't know how it's going to be taken. So you're saying, well, this is how I would feel about this word, but maybe he wouldn't. But it would drive home a very clear point.
So I can see where in your email you said, you don't want me playing videos just of me being stoned, just as my exhibitionist opportunity to perform for you and have an audience. It's really interesting considering whether I'm an exhibitionist or not, and I would like to discuss that. But what I'm saying is that I like using the technology. I'm all about using technology. That's my job and my art. And if during a therapy session, I can throw in a video that will help say something that we can talk about, it made a lot of sense to me.
I think the best work in therapy comes when there's collaboration. So I'm not the type to say, you can't do this or we're not doing it. This is the way it's going to be. It's just a matter of let's talk about it to make sure we're on the same page. So exhibition doesn't have to have a dark cloud to it. But I think what we're saying is we're on the same page. Recording, no problem. Use it as you want. We'll discuss it when it starts getting to that point as far as what content you share, and we're in it.
Okay.
I apologize if my language was bristly, if you will. It was not my intent. It was definitely meant to be pointed, but not to be bristly.
I respect that.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm not the best with emails, and you're not the first to say sometimes my language is not the best in email. So I will continue to work on that myself. So thank you.
I've been told I'm abrupt in emails too. Well, should I play for you that video, which is a little over a minute, or should I not? So my thought was we would discuss that.
Well, I'm interested. Is it okay would you mind sharing me a little bit more about why you'd like me to see it versus you express it?
Sure. So I have this lockbox to help control my addictions. And I feel strongly about the lockbox because I invented one to begin with. I was going to market it. I didn't get to that point, but I have one. I mentioned it to you. You seemed interested. It seemed like it's something of interest to people in therapy, that it could be quite a tool for a lot of people. And that's part of, and so I made a video of me using my lockbox. I thought you'd be just interested in seeing it, not necessarily that it would help my therapy. But I had just smoked some weed, and I asked Tara to tape me showing how I used the lockbox. And in looking back at the video, I see I look kind of stoned, and I'm kind of embarrassed by looking stoned. But on the other hand, I kind of want to represent, that's me some of the time. And I thought if we looked at me, the two of us together watched me looking stoned and me commenting on it, that would be the reason to show the video. Separately, I kind of, apart from therapy, I wonder whether I should share this video with others on YouTube, because it could be a helpful thing to people. And part of my mission statement is to do things to help people and to reveal myself to show others you don't have to feel bad about being normal or being who you are. And if I can do it, they can do it.
By us observing it, what are we observing? Because I can see what you look like, but I won't know what you're experiencing inside.
Well, do you feel that if I say, hold on a moment, and I had some interaction with my wife right here, she's not here today, which is why I'm in this room, but if I had some interaction with my wife and my therapy was about my interaction with my wife, would it be helpful for you to see a little of it real rather than me just telling you about it?
I see your point. Great point. Yeah, that would be super beneficial. Okay, now you can share.
Okay. Actually, before I share, I'm going to say one other thing. And that is, I realize one of the things about me is I want to impress people. I want to impress my therapist. I realize this, the exhibitionist part of me might be, I'm trying to convince you what a great person I am. And what's that all about too? I want to impress you, but I want to impress everybody I come across with my ideas and whatever. Okay, so I'll now play the video. It's on YouTube, but it's, yeah.
Give me 1 second on that.
Sure.
If we get to a place where we could discuss the part that you want to impress me, I think that will help when we relinquish that. That will help shift your need to impress others.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Here's the video.
Rolling.
Okay, really good.
So I'm going to show, this is my weed bag. I have my weed in here, I have a pipe, and I have a paper clip to clean out the pipe. But anyway, I close it up in here, and I used it earlier, a few moments ago. And then when I have my weed bag, I go over here, and I keep it in what is called a kitchen safe. I bought this thing. I invented one myself, but the prototype wasn't very good. But this is it, and you can just set it for how many hours or minutes you want. I'm going to set it for 21 hours. I want a couple of hours before right now tomorrow. So 21, I'll even go 21, 28, what the heck. Push it once and it counts down to 5, 4, and then 0. These things, and now it can't be opened. I keep this thing in a box you gave me, Tara. A bag, I should say. And I asked for you to pose in this pose, and I put this picture on my bag because I keep it up there. And it's just basically, you mind your P's and Q's, please, dear Laurie. And I do. I believe I do pretty much. Can you get a close-up on that thing up there? I was a little bit stoned right at the moment, but that is kind of appropriate.
Really?
Really? What are you photographing?
You didn't say cut.
Okay, well, what are you photographing?
You didn't say cut.
Okay, well, what are you photographing? Anyway, aren't I great?
First I thought it was cute. You didn't say cut. Okay, so let's talk a little about that.
I'm embarrassed to a degree to share with people that I get stoned. I used to particularly not want to do that, thinking it would affect the work I get. I'm a filmmaker in town. I used to have a legal graphic, a business doing videos for attorneys, and I wouldn't want attorneys in Santa Barbara to see that I'm a stoner and all. Okay, another left turn about being hired by the well-known attorney Tom Mesereau and his famous client Michael Jackson. The legal video job I was given was to make a video tour of Neverland for Jackson's 2005 trial. And I testified on the stand, narrating my virtual tour of Neverland for the jurors. Had the prosecution known about my marijuana use, they might have had a field day bringing it up while I was being cross-examined. Anyway, back to therapy. Now that I'm 69, almost 70, and I don't need money as much as I used to, and I'm not getting that much work from attorneys these days, even though I still want to get work, I'm a little less concerned about people knowing I'm a stoner. I have questions of how much I am really affected from being stoned. Am I that much more inarticulate? Am I that much more giggly and all? It's something I kind of want to look at.
Like in the video, though, was there something that I was supposed to see? Because to me, you looked a little bit high, but you were normal. I didn't even notice the stumbling on the word, to be honest.
Okay.
A paperclip.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I guess maybe that's part of the feedback I wanted to get. Do I appear stoned, and should I be embarrassed about it? One, you're answering, I didn't appear stoned particularly. Could you tell my eyes were red and I was kind of flush?
Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell when I think somebody's on a substance, whether they've had a drink or two, or they've been smoking some pot or any other substance. I'm a little bit attuned to it, but that doesn't mean the person's being strange or weird. You know, they may have an experience internally. Have you ever asked your friends for feedback?
And maybe I should ask my wife more. I'm a little bit afraid to, get more negative. I mean, she'll, but,
You said with your wife, though, you're kind of afraid to hear something negative.
Yeah.
So are you looking for, what kind of feedback are you looking for? Honest feedback or?
Yeah, honest feedback, but I'm afraid if I find out something that is going to affect our relationship or affect allowing me to smoke weed, I'm afraid to find that out. But on the other hand, if that is the case, I want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer to that. I think she likes me stoned. Sometimes I'm a little more forgetful stoned or a little more mixed up. But I think I'm more kind of lyrical and fun too, which she likes. My memory's not that great overall. It's hard to know how much of it's because I get stoned a lot or not. It probably is some, although I find my memory is about as good as other 69-year-olds I know. I took my therapist's advice and asked my wife point blank, what does she think about my cannabis smoking? How would you say I act when I'm stoned?
Well, I guess you're a little goofier, and you're more willing to do things, in a public setting.
So you're saying I'm more likely to engage with other people when I'm stoned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding of the word stoned is more extreme. Like if somebody is stoned, I imagine them to be kind of like out of control, or and that's not usually where you're at when you get a little bit high. So in my estimation, you get high, but you don't get stoned. You're not in an alternate universe. You're not a different person.
And you love me?
Yes, I love you.
Okay. I must say it's quite a relief that she doesn't have any great aversion to me getting stoned, that I'm not that different, although I feel somewhat different inside.
If I could offer a slight normalization to your experience in that, one is I have quite a few clients who've discussed their pot smoking and their social shame around it. And so it's ironic because the attorney doesn't want the clients to know he smokes pot. The clients don't want the attorney to know that he smokes pot or she smokes pot. So it's a lot more prevalent than people still want to discuss. So now that things are changing with the laws, there might be further openness about it. And I'm not suggesting that's going to change your personal feelings in the moment, but it's a lot more common than one would imagine within the professional realm. Also, that said, you're right. More often than not, of course, there's always exceptions to the rules, but more often than not, when you're stoned, how you described it is what most individuals are like. Okay, you grabbed, the whipped cream instead of the milk for coffee for a second, right? But you're going to catch yourself before you hit it, So you're going to do some little stumbly things like that. Quite a few of my female clients like when their husbands get a little stoned because, okay, he forgot the keys, he had to go back in the house to get him a second time, but he's a lot more chilled out. He's not as irritable.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
Yeah, he stumbles on his words, but that's a great option because if he doesn't, he's annoyed with the long line at the grocery store or whatever it is. So I'm just trying to normalize your experience. So what you're describing seems still pretty much in the normal realm.
It makes me feel good, your point that Some spouses like their husbands to get stoned because they're easygoing, they're mellowed out, and it makes life easier for them. So to wrap up this episode, no great breakthroughs, but my frequency of smoking pot is under control with the use of the kitchen safe, and I was relieved to learn that my wife does not secretly dislike my cannabis habit, and I'm becoming more comfortable with the world knowing that I smoke weed.
You're doing a great job in what you're sharing. We're putting a lot of stuff out there, and I feel like the first month or two of session is kind of throwing seeds out and seeing what grows. All right, so I'll see you next week then.
Okay, thanks, Jordan.
All
See
right.
you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. On kind of a separate issue to do with weed, I have kind of embarrassed her. Well, I've had 3 times smoking weed when I had a bad reaction in the last 10 or 15 years. One, I went to a trade show in Westlake Village. I was showing some equipment. I ate a marijuana brownie someone had given me, and I got so stoned that I couldn't deal with it, and I called her, and she came and picked me up. And that was a little bit embarrassing to my wife. It didn't necessarily hurt my trade show, but it also was kind of a bonding experience. She was able to help me. But then another time, her daughter and the 3 kids were over here at our house. This is about 4 years ago. I was drinking wine during dinner with them to kind of mellow out. I'm a little bit awkward, less so more now with her grown daughter. And then after I drank some wine, a little later in the evening, I went outside and smoked some weed. I thought, this high feeling's fine. I might as well get really high. And I was sitting on the couch right here, and I started getting really kind of dizzy. I was talking to one of the grandkids, and I said, I think I need to go lay down. And as I walked to my bedroom, I passed out, and I hit the wall. And Tara and her daughter saw me, and I came to about 2 or 3 seconds later. They called an ambulance, and an ambulance came and picked me up, and that was embarrassing to the daughter. She made a comment afterwards. I don't know if I can trust Larry around the kids if he's going to pass out.
Okay.
And then one other time recently, it's when I drank first and then I smoked some weed. I started getting dizzy, like I might pass out, and I just laid down on the floor and I felt better in a little while. But once again, it was a little embarrassing to the daughter.
Your acute awareness of how do you show up, how do you look when you're high, because you've had a few times that are a little bit embarrassing. And what I was thinking about is everyone likes to go to a wedding, have a few drinks. But when the best man becomes sloppy, it's a whole nother experience, because the next day everyone's talking about the best man, and it took away from the moment.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, like the ambulance being called is similar to that kind of thing. Like, oh, he went too far with it. I see. Okay. So now when you don't want to stop using, but you don't want to go there and be seen as that guy. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Like, if people are looking to get taken out of their mind and that's their goal, you'll tend to be a little more sloppy with substance because you're just trying to get so far out of your mind. So you'll drink a little bit more, get high a little bit more. But if you're being a little bit more aware and you know what you don't want or what you do want, I think you're more apt to be a little more restrained by that. So recognizing when alcohol doesn't fit. Also with edibles, those are tough because they metabolize through your body as opposed to just being a lung and brain process. And so just the same thing as drinking, where half a glass of wine can kind of loosen you up, one day, the next day it's like, whoa, this is way too much. Depends on what you ate. A lot of other factors come in. So, I always say, eat edibles with caution. Do you hold some embarrassment over this, or?
Not much.
Okay.
Some. I feel like Tara's family's impressed with me overall, even though I have my flaws, and that's fine.
All right. Well, would you like to talk a little bit about, since you were impressed again, the component about wanting to impress me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I went to I've been to therapy off and on over the years. I went to one therapist, Doyle Hollister was his name. I don't know that he's still in town. Do you know of him?
I don't know of him personally, but my supervisor knows him quite well.
Oh, okay. Well, he helped my son when he had some problems. I went to him for a couple of years which led up to my divorce. But I found that I liked, some of me wanted to try to impress him. With my ideas, with my honesty, with my likability, my frailty. And for that matter, most people I come in contact, particularly people who I respect, I guess I want to try to impress. If I don't respect somebody, I might just kind of ignore them and discount them. But when I'm with other people and I'm trying to impress them, I sometimes, I'm spending too much time thinking, well, what can I bring up and talk about that I'll feel good about and they'll feel good about me. I'm sure I can come up with some other thoughts about this topic, but any questions?
Yeah. What part of me are you trying to impress?
I'm not sure I know what that means, but
yeah, it's kind of a weird. Perhaps, what do you think will be? How do you know if you've impressed me or not? How do you get the confirmation?
Well, one way is if you're smiling and you're really engaged with me. To a degree, that's also your personality. One thing I like about your personality is you have a really good eye connection, and you show how you're responding. So I think that's maybe how. Well, and then I would also know if I've impressed. If your question was how do I know when I've impressed you, is partly how you're reacting to me, and then also if you say, "Oh, good idea," well, that was thoughtful. Then I think I've impressed you.
I see. Okay. Fair enough. Well, okay, I'll tell you what I'm experiencing. So you know. I want you to know that you are really important in this moment to me. And that the things you say I value. And that the things you say I'm considering and trying to figure out with all my little bits and pieces of knowledge and wisdom and support on how I can help turn that into helping you. When I give things like, oh, that's a really great idea, it's not so much that I've been impressed. It's my way of letting you know you're on the right track. But it's not from a place of, oh, you impressed me. What I believe is everyone knows what they need to do. I don't think I can, somehow I feel like I should work myself out of a job. You know what you need ultimately. You know what's holding you back ultimately. You need support to work through that. And sometimes we have some blockage. But, through talk therapy, you usually walk yourself into your answer. And then it's like, oh shit, now I have my answer. What do I do with it? And that's where I think I come into play. But when you bring up some notions that are great notions I support, it's because, good, you got out of your own way. You clarified your underlying issue or your blockages, if you will. But it's not from a place of impressing.
Okay.
I don't feel that inside. And that's not to disregard the things you say, but that's not where I'm connecting to.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I might have overstated too the importance, how much I'm trying to impress you, but I know there's an element of that in me.
Yeah, it's so common that people with their therapist originally want to impress to some degree or perform to some degree, and it's no more than any other relationship we have. a persona. We're adjusting. So that's completely normal. The part that we can work on is saying, what part of that are we looking to release? What part are we guarding? So if you're trying to impress me, might it be you don't really want me to see parts of you, or hide? You know what I'm saying? There's something. It could be something else there.
That's an interesting thought. I can't imagine that's the case, but I'll give that some thought.
The other thing why it's good for us to talk about it is we've discussed that you want to be of service to others, but perhaps sometimes you're putting others before yourself. And it's easy for those who are in that pattern to not confront.
Let's see.
You may not want to rock the boat.
True.
Right. And I'm suggesting, no, let's rock the boat. So if there's an issue, let's talk about it here. So if you're trying to impress me, it's okay, let's talk about what impressing people. What does it do for you, right? Because this is the place to rock it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because out in the world, we got to stabilize a little bit more,
I agree totally.
So when it comes to you being appreciated, which it sounds like this is a lot about, you want to be of service to other people and help other people, encourage other people, but you get something from that.
Right. It's kind of a common thought that when you give, you get back by giving.
And do you have concerns you're not going to get, or have you not received enough? Meaning, is that satiation not there? So that if someone doesn't respond the way you want, is that still okay?
Kind of yes and no. I put myself out there a fair amount with videos in my local column, and sometimes I get shut down, other times I don't. I don't like getting shut down. I have an ego. What was your question?
Well, you were lining up for it. So you said you don't like getting shut down. What about getting shut down? Tell me more about that for you.
Well, let's see. Recently, I had a column in our local paper. I asked the question of the week. The question was, what advice do you have for Biden? And I try to come up with, get answers from people that are entertaining, maybe humorous, insightful, or educational. Well, one of the answers was the advice an African-American man had for Biden is to change the sheets in the White House. And the paper told me, let's see, someone called the paper after it was printed and say, that was too biased, that was too low a blow. So not only did I displease this one reader, but the paper kind of shut me down. And I kind of understood it. I know how the paper doesn't want to get too low blow, but I'm kind of edgy in my column, and I feel like it goes with the territory. But that might be an example of being shut down.
So what was that like for you internally?
A little bit of feeling like, I was a bad boy. I goofed, maybe like related to my mom when she scolded me. My ego is kind of cut down a notch, but I kind of steel myself to fight back to where I was. I start thinking of reasons why they're wrong.
So your ego was crushed because they had a different opinion than you wanted them to have?
It wasn't necessarily crushed, but it was hurt. My ego was hurt because I did something that made some people unhappy, and it really upsets me when I do something accidentally that make people unhappy.
What do you think that says about you?
Well, I'd like to think it says I'm compassionate and I want to make people feel good about themselves, and if I do the opposite, it makes me feel bad.
So are you saying that you are, your feeling is that, someone didn't like this, therefore you made them feel bad, and they're not recognizing that you are a better person than that, or what's the story about what it says about who you are as your character?
Maybe I'm compartmentalizing too much. Well, it has the paper kind of put me on waivers that, if you screw up too often, we're not going to want to have your column in the paper, although they've never said that, and they say they love the column. But I guess I'm a little afraid of that. And it makes me feel like this woman who didn't like it didn't get the humor, and I hurt her feelings. On the other hand, I think a lot of other people enjoyed that answer, so I think others enjoyed it, but I'm not sure what the answer is, but I don't like making people unhappy. Am I going around in circles?
Not so much going around in circles. No, we're working on this. Somewhere in this, though, you're suggesting, well, this person maybe she's not very happy with what you wrote. Okay. So does that mean you're not a humanitarian? What is this saying about you, though? As in, like, why is that such a...
Okay, maybe it's saying about me I'm biased. I don't see both sides of the point of view. I'm uncaring and I make a low blow.
Okay. But do you believe that about yourself?
Good question. No, I don't. I don't. So, why am I paying attention to her?
Not so much why, but I think there's a difference between this person responded to my column, they weren't very favorable. That's a bummer. Versus they didn't respond well to my column, and I feel like I let them down. I feel like they don't understand my humor. So you have quite a bit of a narrative with it. And so if you know your intentions, you feel strong about it. So somewhere it seems like there's some confidence that's lined up in here with this a little bit.
Confidence?
Yes.
Yeah. I do feel like I often have a confidence issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'll write that down.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're like how you're received by the exterior world is how you understand the interior. We call that an exterior locus of control, or exterior locus of orientation. So that if I smile and engage with you, then I'm happy. Or that you're okay, rather, right? So you're needing my confirmation to balance how you feel inside. And what is helpful is if we can get more interior oriented, so you're good before, during, and after, because you know it within, not from the outside world saying, good job, high five, confirmational improvement, and so forth. And it's very common. Most of us, that's why we ask for praise. We need that. But if our ego is a little too needy of that, it's a little bit out of line. And it sounds to me that so much of your orientation is exterior, and so much of how you calibrate your interior well-being is how you're exteriorly received.
I think you're right. I guess I wouldn't like to be as sensitive to the exterior world.
Yeah. Did we talk last week about the book Highly Sensitive People?
No.
Okay. I think you might like it. So I can find the exact author, but it's called Highly Sensitive People, or the book for highly sensitive people.
Uh-huh.
Now, highly sensitive people, it ranges, but it could be something as basic as symptoms that look similar to like people on the autism spectrum, like too much light is just kind of affected by it, too much noise, or just highly sensitive. Highly sensitive people could also be very attuned to eye contact. So when it moves or shifts, it shakes them up a little bit. Very, very normal. So I think you might enjoy it because it's often a lot of the pieces in it discussed when there's a lot of exterior orientation and how we feel inside when the world's, people look at us, people engage with us. Well, what does smile mean to you? Not getting the smile, what did that mean to you? So you may find some interest in that book, okay. Some areas that,
thank you.
Some nuggets.
I may look it up. I normally like fiction reading, but in small amounts, I'm interested in other stuff.
Because you seem to have some components of what a highly sensitive person has, in that there's a attunement to the outside world, and why a small little shift can really be an overwhelming experience on the inside. Like, oh shoot, I stumbled on the word, paperclip. My wife looked at me kind of silly. Oh, I'm the dipshit. I'm not, and it kind of snowballs from there. Mm-hmm. So one way to work through that is for us to start discussing a little bit more your interior narratives. So I'm just using this for our example. When I stumbled on paperclip and my wife gave me that expression, here's what my interior talk was to myself. She looked at me like I was a disappointment. Knowing I'm a disappointment, she'll probably leave me in 6 months. Knowing she's leaving me in 6 months, she's going to bankrupt me. As far as the imagination and fantasy of those thoughts go. So we can start working at, okay, which one is the most real? Okay, none of them. All right. Or there might be some facts, but really playing, what is it you're telling yourself about these scenarios? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're suggesting when I'm reacting to something and being sensitive to something, I should look at what the thought pattern is that results from that, and where do I go with that?
Yeah. If you can. It's sometimes difficult in the moment because we're kind of charged and we're out of our body a little bit. So it's not something that I think is simple to do in the moment. If you can, the closer to the moment, the better. So it might be something like, someone cut me off at and on the freeway. So you're pissed off. So you're kind of out of your mind. But then you pull into your driveway. Then you think about it. Okay, what was happening? Why was I so pissed off? They cut me off. Well, I'm actually just pissed because I was thinking about when my friend got killed in an accident when I was 16, and it brought up these emotions, and right. So then you give yourself a narrative of what's really happening. Okay, so you weren't pissed off at this other person. No, I'm still sad about this experience. That's where the work is. This unhealed story. But you wouldn't know unless you kind of reflected on what's kind of going on. I'll tighten that up a little bit for you. Thoughts, feelings, actions. Our thoughts impact our feelings, which impact our actions, or sometimes the other way around. So I think I'm not worthy. I feel low self-esteem. My action is I'm going to stay in all day. So if someone says, I don't like staying in all day, what's going on there? I don't know. Okay, well, what do you think is encouraging that? And so sometimes you go reverse. Well, what are you feeling? Low self-esteem. What's impacting? I think I'm a loser. So for you, it might be when you have an action that you're not so happy with, consider, okay, here is my action that I stumbled on this word. What's my thought about that? What's my feeling regarding it? And what is my action behind that? Or reverse it if you need it. But in any combination of that, but kind of start looking into it.
Makes sense, yeah.
One way that helps too is if you take a notebook and you put in the 3 columns, thought, feeling, action. Here's my thought. Based on that thought, here's the feeling I had. Based on these 2 things, here's what I actually physically did. I just sat on the couch and I reflected. I thought my wife was leaving me. Why? I don't know. I just thought it. What'd you feel? Insecure. What was your action? I got up, gave her a kiss, told her how much I love her. Okay. What'd she do? She told me I love her. I love you back. Right? So you can see there's these things that's kind of incongruent to the end, but you can at least see what you're doing with these thoughts and these actions.
And I suppose I keep a journal. I could, in my journal, consider past actions and then what my thoughts were and what my actions were.
Yeah, you can look at some past, and what were your feelings about that? Like what were you
thoughts and feelings? Yeah.
And you can look online for like a feeling chart where you can get some like real feeling words. Mm-hmm. and that might be helpful too. So yeah, here's my my action was I got stoned at the trade fair. Okay, I wasn't happy about. What were your thoughts on it? I'm not responsible. My cannabis spoke. I'm not as business savvy as I need to be in the moment. Something like that. What were my feelings? Dejected. I was feeling or grandiose. That I can get as high as I want and everything will be just fine. Whatever feeling connects. What was the action behind it? Oh, shit, I had to call my wife. So we can find where there's some incongruence as well.
Sounds
But
good.
but if you get feeling wheel, that'll be really helpful because you'll find some words that you'll be like, oh, that's more accurate to what I was really feeling.
A feeling, a feeling chart.
Wheel, W-H-E-L,
feeling
wheel, yeah.
Okay. Huh. Okay, cool.
I was born in the United States, yet one of my friends said, you might have been born in the U.S., but you're actually of another culture. Language doesn't work the same way with you. So say wheel. It's a hard one for me.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are you of a different culture?
No, I'm American. My father's African American. My mother's Mexican and Greek.
Oh.
But all American born and so forth. But language is always like certain letters. So wheel. It's very challenging. Nonetheless, I think a feeling wheel, you'll find some great benefit in.
Okay, good. I'll look at that.
All right. So next week, you'll initiate the recording.
Right. I'll send you
Okay.
a link.